From the ashes rose something greater, a phoenix. The tragedy of the Triangle Shirtwaist fire produced the spark that lit up the flames of labor reform. The Industrial Revolution affected agriculture, textile and metal manufacture, transportation, economic policies, and the social structure in America. Before the revolution, 60 to 70% of people lived in rural areas and depended on agriculture. But when the revolution took place, a mass exodus occurred as people started moving away from rural towns to more populated and bustling cities. Factories popped up throughout the United States. These factories employed many children and women, taking advantage of these two categories of people and exploiting their abilities. The lack of laws and regulations allowed factory owners to continue their unjust behavior. From the perspective of a typical worker in the industrial period, the factory lifestyle was dreadful. The working space was minuscule and packed with generally young workers. The workers were constantly worked and were rarely provided breaks. The quality of food was no better than the conditions they worked in. The aggravating noise from the machines continuously rang in the ears of the deprived personnel. A specific soup called gruel was fairly common among the workers. Gruel consisted of oats or potatoes mixed with milk and water. In 1833, one worker spoke about the appalling conditions that were in the factories. She said, "I have been in the mills at all hours, and I have never in my life seen the machinery stopped at meal times in any of the mills." Strikes erupted in New York City due to the terrible factory conditions and eventually became prevalent throughout the country. The strikes consist of a demand for more organized working conditions, increased wages, and shorter working hours. However, many factories did not comply with these demands. One such factory was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Employing mostly teenage girls, the factory forced its laborers to work for 12 hours a day, every day. The building had 4 elevators, which could only be reached by passing through long and narrow corridors. 2 stairways led down to the street and could be used as fire escapes. However, they were also very narrow and difficult for workers to get through. Hoping to prevent potential uprisings, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory made sure that the young women did not unionize. The company kept the building's doors locked in order to prevent theft and workers from potentially escaping. Failing to recognize the need for improved conditions in the workplace, the factory was unable to react when, on March 25, 1911, the factory was engulfed by a gruesome fire.
Lost all of those workers' lives. There were no smoking signs in the factory, but the cutters, who were kind of the elite in the shop, were known to ignore that, and perhaps one of them did. It's not clear exactly what happened, but someone flicked an ash, and it caught in what was probably more than a ton of fabric scraps. There had been more than 100,000 shirtwaists made since the last time the manufacturers had cleaned scraps out of the shop. And the young women, it's worth picking up on what Steve said, had been warning about those scraps. They'd been warning about them for months. There were hundreds of complaints on file at the Women's Trade Union League about the dangers of these factories and the likelihood that fire would start.
The fire quickly spread throughout the 8th floor of the building. Immediately, young women ran through the corridors. However, because of the best safety features installed, only one worker could pass through at a time. The fire pails did not have enough water to stop the spread. On top of that, the fire hose didn't work. A quick call to the upper floors proved useless, as no one came to help. The 9th floor's doors were blocked by barrels of motor oil, which blew up, preventing any help reaching them. The fire escape was locked. Out of the 4 elevators, only one was operational. This was a total nightmare that was becoming a reality. Meanwhile, the passerbys witnessed in terror as teenage girls forced themselves to jump through the windows of the 9th floor in desperation. A fire truck arrived with a ladder too short, reaching only the 7th floor, killing all hope. As a reporter across the street said, "I learned a new sound, more horrible sound than a description can picture. It was the thud of a speeding living body on a stone sidewalk. Thud. Dead. Thud. Dead. Thud. Dead." 19 bodies were found behind locked doors. 25 bodies were found huddled in the cloakroom, and a total of 62 girls had jumped out of the building. Overall, 196 deaths were reported, making it top the list of the most deaths in the workplace until the September 11 attacks in 2001. In response to the tragic event, more emotionally backed strikes arose. The protesters demanded for laws and policies to safeguard from such an event from ever happening again. The government finally decided to enforce new laws and place regulations protecting the rights of the laborers, including child labor regulations and factory fire procedures. With the purpose of further maintaining safety in factory labor, a factory investigation commission formed, which was run by the famous Al Smith. Another person who had a huge impact in the industrial period, Francis Perkins, called the commission the torch that lighted up the industrial scene. The New York State investigation confirmed the factory violated common laws. The state was pressured by many worker unions, like the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, who led a march of 100,000 to take action. The investigation report stated that the factory didn't have multiple fire exits, nor had a sprinkler system. Also, the factory failed to practice fire drills with its employees. As a result, the United States Department of Labor established a set of laws that factories must follow to prevent such a tragic event from ever happening again. The law required there to be multiple fire exits, unblocked fire doors, and a clear pathway to exits at all times. Firefighting equipment must be maintained in the building, and there must be fire sprinklers installed in upper floors. All floors should also contain portable fire extinguishers. All employees must be trained on the proper use of fire extinguishers, as well as have planned escape routes, and have practiced fire drills. Emergency evacuation are required to be written and posted where employees can see it. Fire prevention plans must also be available in written form. All fire hazard areas, such as those containing combustible chemicals, must be maintained and controlled at all times. It is said that for a positive change to happen, it must erupt from the deepest holes of superficial defeat. So after the smoke slowly cleared and revealed the ashes of tragedy and defeat, laws and policies emerged that provided great benefit to society. This truly was a major turning point in American history.